Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the strangest unsolved mysteries in American history. On Christmas Eve, 1945, a mother heard something hit her roof, a small thump like a rubber ball rolling off the shingles. She dismissed it and went back to sleep. By morning, 5 of her children would be gone, and 80 years later, no one still knows what really happened to them. This is the story of the Sodder family, one of the strangest, most disputed unsolved cases in American history. Stay till the end, because the part most people don't know about is the part that makes the least sense. George Sodder was born Giorgio Soddu in Sardinia, Italy, in 1895. He came to America alone at just 13 years old, working on the Pennsylvania railroads before settling in West Virginia and building his own trucking business. He married Jenny, and together they raised 10 children in Fayetteville, a small coal town. By 1945, 9 of those children were still living at home. Their oldest son, Joe, was serving overseas in the war. George wasn't a quiet man. He was known around town for openly criticizing Benito Mussolini, a controversial opinion in a community with deep Italian roots. That detail seems small. It would turn out to matter a lot. In October of 1945, a life insurance salesman visited the Sodder home. George turned him down. The man got angry and reportedly told him his house would, quote, go up in smoke, and that his children would be destroyed because of his comments about Mussolini. Around the same time, another stranger came by asking about work. He wandered to the back of the house and pointed out the fuse boxes, telling George, unprompted, that they'd cause a fire someday. George had just had the wiring inspected. It was fine. In the weeks before Christmas, the older Sodder boys noticed a car parked along the highway near their home. The people inside seemed to be watching the younger children walk home from school. None of this seemed connected at the time. Looking back, the Sodders would spend the rest of their lives wondering if it was the beginning of something planned. On December 24th, the family celebrated like any other year. Marion, the oldest daughter, surprised her younger sisters with toys she'd bought from the dime store where she worked. Late that night, the phone rang. Jenny answered. A woman's voice, unfamiliar, asked for someone who didn't live there, then laughed oddly and hung up. Jenny noticed something strange. The lights downstairs were still on, the curtains open, and the doors unlocked, all things her children always did before bed, without exception. She went back to bed. A short while later, she heard a loud thump on the roof, like something heavy had been thrown. She dismissed it again. Around 1 a.m. she woke to the smell of smoke. The downstairs office, the room where the phone was already in flames. She screamed for George. They got 4 of the children out safely, but 5 were still upstairs. Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 10, Jenny, 8, and Betty, just 5 years old. George ran for his ladder, the one always kept propped against the house. It was gone, just gone, with no explanation. He tried to drive his coal trucks closer to climb up to the windows. Both trucks had worked fine the day before. Neither would start. He tried to scoop water from the rain barrel. It was frozen solid, even though it hadn't been that cold. In just 45 minutes, the house collapsed into the basement. There was nothing left to do. The fire department wasn't even called until after 1 a.m., and somehow, no truck arrived until 8 a.m. By then, there was nothing left but ash. A brief search of the basement turned up a few bones and pieces of organs, but officials never told the family that. The Sodders were simply told to leave the site alone. Officially, the fire was ruled accidental, caused by faulty wiring, but George pointed out the wiring had just passed inspection. And if it had been electrical, why were the Christmas lights still on, glowing, even as the fire spread? In a house fire that intense, you'd expect to find at least some bone fragments or teeth. Investigators found none. Nothing at all. Soon after, strangers began coming forward. A woman said she saw the children watching the fire from a passing car that night, calm, almost like they were waiting for someone. A hotel employee in Charleston claimed 2 of the missing children stayed there the very next morning, with 2 adults who refused to speak to staff at all. Years later, the family received an envelope. Inside was a photograph of a young man who looked remarkably like their son Louis, grown into his 20s. On the back, just 4 words, Louis Sodder, I love you, brother Frankie. they never traced where it came from. Theories piled up over the decades: a kidnapping ring, revenge over George's politics, even rumors of organized crime. No theory was ever proven. None were ever fully ruled out either. George and Jenny never rebuilt their house. Instead, they turned the site into a memorial garden, and in 1952 put up a billboard along the highway, 5 children's faces and a reward for any information. For nearly 40 years, that billboard stood. People would pull over just to look into the children's eyes. It came down only after Jenny passed away in 1989. George died in 1969, Jenny in 1989. Their youngest surviving daughter, Sylvia, who'd lived through that night as a child, passed away in 2021, the last person alive who remembered it firsthand. To this day, the Sodder case remains officially unsolved. No remains, no confirmed sightings, no closure, just decades of unanswered questions and a family that never stopped looking. What do you think really happened to the Sodder children that night? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe if you want more real unsolved mysteries like this one. Some mysteries never get solved, and this might be one of them. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.